Samantha Dean was 26 weeks pregnant when she was found murdered in the vacant parking lot of an empty shopping center in Bastrop, Texas. The cancer survivor had made it her life's work to support the victims of violent crime. That is, before she, too, became a victim. The circumstances surrounding her murder were bizarre. A staged scene, messages luring her to the location from an unknown sender. The vehicle she was found in was missing seats. But her killers had made one significant mistake. They left behind a key piece of evidence, one that would allow investigators to unravel an intricate plan and uncover each person involved, one by one. Hi there, I'm Kevin and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is as devastating as it is complicated. The victim, Samantha Dean, was widely adored by everyone who knew her, and she perished alongside a daughter whose birth she eagerly awaited. The story of Sam's murder is one of conspiracy, loyalty amongst brothers, and ultimately of betrayal. Let's take a look. Around 2 a.m. on February 4th, 2015, a police officer was patrolling businesses in Bastrop, Texas. The officer pulled into the parking lot of an unoccupied shopping center. Once there, he noticed a car parked towards the back of the otherwise empty lot. Driving closer to the car, he spotted the body of a woman. She was only partially inside the car. The woman was clearly deceased and displayed a severe head injury. The victim was later identified as 29-year-old Samantha Dean. Her autopsy would reveal 3 gunshot wounds to the head. She had been 7 months pregnant. The vehicle, a black Dodge Charger, was registered to Samantha. Officers found its backseat removed and placed outside nearby. It was clear that Sam had been shot while seated in the vehicle, yet there were no shell casings located at the scene. Inside the car, police found 2 cell phones. One was Samantha's. It was not clear who the owner was of the second device. On a seat near to Sam was a grocery bag full of marijuana. At first glance, the scene seemed to tell the story of a drug deal gone wrong. However, there was also evidence inconsistent with this scenario. The bag of drugs had been left behind, as well as some cash. Perhaps most revealing was the state of the white grocery bag, which contained the marijuana. It had no blood on it, suggesting that it had actually been placed inside the car after the shooting. Bastrop County investigators suspected they were dealing with a staged murder scene. The tone of the investigation shifted when law enforcement learned that Samantha Dean had been one of their own. The expectant mother was a member of the victim's services team with the Kyle Police Department. She had been there for 3 years. Family said it had been her dream to bring closure and comfort to victims of crime. Sam had earned a degree in liberal arts and public policy at the University of Texas at San Antonio. During her time there, she battled sarcoma cancer in her elbow. She nonetheless continued attending her classes every day, even while she received radiation and chemotherapy treatment. Sam's original aim was to serve as a police officer. However, the sarcoma cancer left her with a disability that forced her to alter course. She obtained a master's degree in forensic psychology and later joined the Kyle PD. Samantha, along with her immediate family, had been thrilled by her pregnancy. She was expecting a girl who she named Madeline, just Maddie for short. Sam was particularly close with her younger sister Taylor, who excitedly awaited becoming an aunt. She also maintained many lifelong friendships and was adored by her coworkers.
Wish I could have spent more time with her, but Samantha was an excellent person, and I think it's amazing that even after she is strong because she beat cancer and she kept going and until now, but love her and miss her.
Every time that I saw her, especially with her baby bump now. You know, I'm gonna miss her because everybody knew she was gonna be an outstanding mother.
Samantha was special. She was the most delightful and goofy person who consumed her body weight in sugar every day. She won't be remembered as a statistic. She won't be thought of as Kyle Police Department Victim Services Coordinator whose life was taken. She will be remembered as Samantha Dean, friend and family.
Everyone tells me as time passes it'll get better, but I'm just not feeling that right now. I miss her so much.
The father of Samantha's daughter was quickly identified, 32-year-old Austin police officer VonTrey Clark. The two had been involved in an on-again, off-again romance for 7 years. On the evening of the day Sam was found, he was invited to speak with the Bastrop County Sheriff's investigator.
Mr. Clark, like I said, first and foremost, my condolences. I know you told me a little bit on the phone that, and we'll clarify exactly what relationship y'all had or didn't have, but regardless of the fact, you told me something critical on the phone, and that was that, you know, she was carrying your baby. So my condolences, but I'm very grateful you're here so that way we can figure out, one, I get to know her a little bit more, know more about her life, and hopefully find out what happened to her. So with that said, tell me, how long have you known her?
I've known Sam for 6 years, maybe 7 years.
VonTrey and Sam had first met and began seeing each other when they were both temporarily employed at a pharmaceutical company called PPD Development. They had reconnected when their careers, now both in law enforcement, had again converged a few years later. VonTrey told the investigator that the relationship was not one of love and commitment. He viewed it as purely physical and had kept their affair a secret from his longtime partner, a woman named Laura Tootin. VonTrey and Laura were raising 2 boys together.
I guess when you started when you started with APD, you said y'all kind of picked that back up. Did it cause, I know these are uncomfortable questions, did it cause any friction with your current relationship, or did you just keep that secret to yourself?
I just kept it to myself.
Yes. When did Samantha get pregnant, or when did she tell you she was pregnant?
Sam told me she was pregnant Saturday morning. I want to say early August.
Early August.
I believe so.
Are you in a relationship right now? Or you were in a relationship then in August as well?
I'm sorry?
In August, when she told you that you're in a relationship, did that cause you any stressors, or?
I haven't even said anything.
On the night that Sam was killed, VonTrey told the investigator that he had made dinner for his family. They were finished by 8:30.
And then at about 9 or so, 9:30, I left. I went to the school. We have a school right across the street. Mm-hmm. Actually, I live right across the street from Sam. I don't know if you know that, but we live fairly close together. Okay. So I left because in my current relationship, we're going through problems. So I left and just stayed out for a while, and I just chilled in my car, walked around for a little bit, and I ended up going to the police station.
VonTrey said he was home by midnight. Surveillance at the APD South substation, where he went in to read some reports, confirmed his presence there, though for only 23 minutes. Cameras capturing portions of the primary school, however, did not show him near the building in the hours previous, as he had stated. Laura confirmed that he was out of the house for that period of time. She also told police that she had noticed something odd. VonTrey had left his cell phone at home.
I think I have anything else. Can you think of anything else that you want to tell me that might help me? Or
the only thing, there's nothing that I know about Sam that I can think of that would help. Mm-hmm. But when I was talking to Stephanie earlier today, she mentioned some things about Sam called the police on someone, I guess a neighbor or something.
Stephanie
Burgess. It's Sam's best friend.
VonTrey was placed on restrictive duty by the APD, and an internal investigation exploring his relationship with Samantha was launched. Trey, or Treasy as some of his friends knew him, had attended some college in Oklahoma and then later in Texas before graduating from the Austin Police Academy in 2012 and joining the force. While still at the academy, a younger Trey had spoken to the news about his respect for the Austin Police Chief, Art Acevedo.
It's incredible. I mean, this is the guy you see on TV. This is the face of our department. It means a lot for him to come out and run with us because it shows us that he's behind us 100%.
VonTrey's 3 years on the force had already been eventful. He had earned himself 2 commendations and 1 3-day suspension. In December 2012, he was suspended after a car chase ended in him crashing and rolling his police cruiser. The vehicle he had been running down drove through a red light. The next year, however, the young officer redeemed himself. When he was the first responding officer at the scene of an apartment fire, he reportedly banged on doors, quickly evacuated all residents, and directed them to safety while radioing for assistance. Only weeks later, he was commended once more. He quickly deduced a plan to apprehend a known sex offender after spotting him sleeping in a rented car in North Austin. In that case, VonTrey was credited for almost certainly saving another victim from assault. The day after Sam was found, investigators performed a thorough search of her home in South Austin. They also sorted through her cell phone data. Text message exchanges between Sam and VonTrey in the weeks and months before her death showed VonTrey pressuring her to have an abortion. He informed her that he did not want to have the baby and that doing so would ruin his life. Investigators found that after years together, he considered his partner, Laura, to be his common-law wife and believed the new baby would threaten that relationship. The home where the couple lived together was owned by Laura. Searching Sam's home, officers retrieved her journal. In it, they found entries describing fear for her life and that VonTrey Clark was going to kill her. She wrote about an incident in January in which he had tied her up, ostensibly for sexual purposes. However, VonTrey had remained in uniform and retained his service weapon. Sam later told a friend that at that time, she thought he may have wanted to kill her. Despite all of this, VonTrey was not immediately charged with her murder. Bastrop County investigators were obviously suspicious, though still building their case. As speculation swirled, many close to VonTrey Clark found it difficult to believe that he could be responsible, including Denise Hill, the mother of VonTrey Clark's longest and closest friend.
Never heard her name before until I looked it up myself on the internet, and then I started reading everything, and I'm like, wow, I was just blown away. And I'm like, these people are crazy. They're going to let the real killer get away because they're totally going in the wrong direction.
Denise's son, Kevin Watson, was so close to VonTrey as teens that they considered themselves to be brothers. By extension, she thought of VonTrey as a son. She was proud of both boys, Kevin, an A student who became an electrician, and VonTrey, a championship athlete who became a police officer.
They looked a lot alike at the time, and everybody thought they were brothers, so they just called themselves brothers. You know, Trey ate a lot of meals at our house. I got a police officer for a son, so I was very, very proud.
In later years, Kevin had struggled as an electrician and had made ends meet by dealing drugs. He had accumulated a criminal record. Despite this, the two men, the APD officer and his criminal brother, remained close, and Kevin's mother was supportive of both her sons.
My thought is, how much evidence would somebody have to show me to convince me that my son is heartless? Because that's pretty much what you're telling me. The Trey that I know, that I've known for 15 years, could not be capable of something this heinous. The Trey that I knew was, when I lived in Austin, he was just a sweet kid.
On February 8th, 5 days after Sam was found, a friend and coworker of hers received a threatening text message that referenced her murder. It read, "I fucking got her. I'm going to get him, then I am coming for you. I will show you what a crisis is." Could this have been sent by her killer? At face value, the message suggested a different line of inquiry for the investigation, one that focused on the threat posed by the person that VonTrey claimed Sam had called the police on weeks earlier, and not on him, the father of her unborn child. Samantha lived in South Austin, just north of Kyle, where she worked. It was unclear what had brought her to Bastrop, roughly 30 miles east, on the night she was killed. Sam's cell phone, which had been retrieved from her Dodge Charger, had traveled to William Cannon Drive, where surveillance footage from a convenience store showed her entering at 9:37 p.m. On the footage, she was not seen using her phone, yet its activity indicated that someone else was using it to make a call during that time. The number it was connected with had exchanged several messages with Sam's phone that night. The messages instructed Sam to get $120 and arranged a meeting at the shopping center in Bastrop. Sam was captured using the ATM at the convenience store to withdraw $100. Then her phone traveled east to Bastrop. The phone number that Sam had been texting with, beginning at just after 9:30 p.m. on the night she was killed, had only been activated earlier that day. It was a prepaid burner phone. The device had been used to contact two different phones that night. Those two calls were to Sam and a second burner phone. Investigators tracked its purchase to a Walmart in Stafford, where security footage captured a man in a red hoodie entering the store. The man was recorded talking on a cell phone the entire time he was in the store, buying another cell phone, then walking out to a white Toyota and driving off. The license plate number for the Toyota could be seen on the footage, and the police learned that the car was registered to a woman named Kyla Fisk. Kyla was the common-law wife of the man that VonTrey had considered his brother since childhood, Kevin Watson. It did not take long for investigators to verify that the man in the red hoodie was VonTrey's closest friend. Following the discovery of the first burner device, connections amongst additional prepaid phones began to unravel a complex web of communication, all taking place in the weeks and days before the murder. The second burner device, which had been contacted by the first, had also called and messaged a third unregistered burner phone. It had also connected with Kyla Fisk's personal cell phone. It was one of the three burners that had been found by police left behind in Sam's car. Every number contacted by these three devices was now of interest to investigators as they began to uncover what was proving to be an elaborate conspiracy. Around the time of Sam's death, her phone, as well as all three of the identified burner phones, were in use, bouncing off of a tower near to the empty shopping center. Following the night of the murder, none of these devices were used again. Kyla Fisk was brought in for questioning. It seems that one of the burner phones purchased by her husband had dialed not only her, but also VonTrey Clark before its number had been changed, perhaps in an attempt to hide the mistake of placing calls to personal, registered cell phones. But Kyla told investigators that she did not even know VonTrey Clark.
We'd like to ask you about this other number that was called. Another person was called on that phone before that phone apparently changed numbers or something. And, we'd like to ask you about.
My phone changed numbers?
No, the 213 phone. Yeah, it called a VonTrey Clark. Yeah. Does that mean something to you all? He may go by Trey. This guy, he's an Austin police officer. Is that ring a bell?
Oh, no.
Okay. The number apparently called your number, and they called it VonTrey Clark, and then the number was changed to a different number on the same day. Whoever bought the phone and was using the phone changed the phone number after it contacted you as VonTrey Clark guy. So I didn't know those people.
Kyla received 2 calls from the burners on the night of the murder, one earlier in the night when she was shown to still be at home, and a second one very late at nearly 4 a.m.
So it's been a kind of a late night call, I don't know if you get calls late at night or not, but, I mean, it was about like 6. Well, it was just after midnight, the second call from that other number, but, it seems a little unusual that, 2 numbers that were, we have reason to believe a little Bastrop was calling you. You can't think of what that might have been about or nothing rings a bell. Yeah, a 4 or 5 number, I'm probably not going to answer it. Yeah, it appears you answered the call. Does anybody else use your phone? I guess we haven't asked you that.
There were 3 burner phones used to communicate amongst the conspirators, and only 2 were accounted for. If VonTrey had one phone and Kevin had another, that left the user of the third phone an open question. Kyla Fisk had been at her home in Houston where she lived with Kevin Watson when the murder took place, so it seems she had not been carrying the third device. However, her cell phone, as well as the other 2 burners, had been in contact with yet another personal number, that of Freddie Lee Smith, an old friend of Kevin's. Unanswered calls from the phone believed to be used by VonTrey was followed by a text from Kevin to Freddie Smith, informing him that Trey, or Treasy as they called him, was trying to reach him. Freddie had an extensive criminal record. He was also reported to be a member of the Hoover Gangster Crips. He seemed a likely candidate as the carrier of the third phone, though direct evidence remained elusive. Wiretaps were set up to monitor the communication amongst every person of interest. Law enforcement listened in for months. The wiretaps did not deliver on the incriminating evidence that Bastrop County investigators had hoped for. Hours of conversation did, however, confirm much of what they had already suspected. For instance, on a call between Kevin and Freddie, Kevin explained that he made a mistake with the calls placed on one of the burners and had changed the number, hoping to hide the call history. It seems he had left his house in Houston on the night of the murder to pick up Freddie, but had forgotten his address. So he phoned Kyla from his burner phone and had her locate directions. At that time, records showed that she simultaneously called Freddie while on the line with Kevin and relayed the directions to his house.
Yeah, what's up? Bro, I got it. What's up? The phone. Yeah, I already know. So, we need to change numbers, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like anybody that called, which one number, I talked to Kyla and I talked to you. Yeah. All for that? Yeah, you remember? Because I was looking for your house. Fuck.
In July 2015, county investigators finally got their big break in the case. This came after they identified the phone used to send that anonymous, threatening text message to Sam's colleague a few days after the murder. That phone was again purchased from a Walmart, this one in Katy. Surveillance footage showed 2 men entering the store, purchasing the phone, walking out to a car, and driving off. The license plate number, again, linked back to a friend of Kevin Watson, this time a man named Aaron Williams. The 2 had purchased the phone together. Investigators charged Aaron with retaliation for sending that text. While in Bastrop County custody, they pressured him to talk. They knew he was with Kevin when the text was sent. They wanted to know what his friend told him about the murder.
We know that you know a lot more than what you're telling us. It's very apparent through the phone conversations you've had with Kevin, through your behavior, through everything else, that you know what's going on.
What we're asking today is we want to know what these other people did, what he saw them do, what he knows what they do. That's what we're asking.
What they told him.
What they've told him, because he knows on the phone calls we've recorded, he's mentioned their names. He's talked about, putting the pieces, they talked about it, they're not putting the pieces together yet. They're not linking you to these people yet. There's a lot of stuff that was talked about in phone calls that leads us to believe he knows
about what happened 5 days prior to them going to Bastrop and sending that threat.
Eventually, after repeated claims of ignorance, Aaron explained what he knew via Kevin about VonTrey Clark and the police officer's desire to have Samantha Dean killed.
I don't know his real name, but that he was married and I guess he got that girl pregnant and she didn't want to give it up.
Okay, and when you say Treasy, what, I know you don't really know his real name, what do you know about Treasy?
I don't know nothing about him.
You don't know where he lives or what he does? Or
I know he's a cop and lives in Austin.
Okay, so Treasy's a cop in Austin that's a friend of Kevin's.
Yeah.
Aaron told investigators that he believed VonTrey paid Freddie and perhaps Kevin $5,000 to commit the murder.
And he told me that they killed the girl. I don't know.
Did he tell you who actually pulled the trigger?
No, he didn't tell me who.
You said they?
Yeah, they went out there and they went out there to kill that girl. And Tree was gonna pay him some money to do it. I don't know if he did or not.
Did he say how much he was gonna pay him?
I think $5,000
a piece or all together?
I don't know.
You know,
I don't know. And that's what he told me.
So they just basically told you that they
just went out there.
They went out there and killed her.
Yeah.
They being Kevin and Freddie.
Yeah.
He vaguely recalled Kevin mentioning how they staged the scene to appear as a drug deal. He also added that the group panicked when they realized that an item had been left behind at the scene, either a phone or the gun, he said. Aaron was left with the impression that the murder had been planned for some time.
I would guess it would be planned out for a while.
What would make you think that?
I mean, I don't know how far along she was. Well, he told me she was close to giving birth. So, I mean, he told me that like that Trees was like he didn't want the baby, and I didn't know how far along she was. But he told me he kept trying to tell her not to have it, and I guess she didn't want to listen or didn't want to get rid of it. He told me that the girl said she was gonna ruin his life and stuff like that, but I never knew how far along she was, so I never knew how far back if he was planning or doing anything like that.
Following Aaron's arrest and cooperation with police, the writing was on the wall for VonTrey Clark. That same month, he was summoned by Austin police to meet with the internal affairs regarding their investigation. He had refused to show up. APD Chief Art Acevedo, whom VonTrey had praised only a few years earlier, held a press conference announcing his termination from the force due to his proven criminal associations and insubordination. The former officer was unable to follow the order to attend the internal affairs meeting because he had fled the country.
The department learned, actually earlier this week, the department learned that he had left the country. He is last known to have arrived in Jakarta, Indonesia, the city of Jakarta, Indonesia. It's a city of probably about 10 million people. It is a city in a country, or a city in a country that does not have an extradition treaty with the United States. I'm sure Mr. Clark will find this press conference. I have a message to you. If you have any dignity, if you have any semblance of humanity left in you, Mr. Clark, get back on that plane and come back here to Austin. If you're innocent, prove it. Come over here and face the music.
An arrest warrant for VonTrey was issued days later, though it could not be acted upon without the coordination and consent of the Indonesian authorities. The FBI began the slow process of negotiating to have VonTrey extradited to the United States.
I'm looking forward to the day that the Dean family gets justice. And I can tell you that I hope that that justice comes quickly because what happened to that beautiful woman and her baby, there's no excuse for it. It's despicable.
Further arrests were made in an attempt to strengthen the case. Kevin Watson was brought into custody on drug charges, while a capital murder indictment was sought. Despite the best efforts of investigators, Kyla Fisk continued to claim ignorance.
Our case on Kevin is made. I mean, you can ask me some questions if you like about that. I'll try to answer what I can if you're doubting that.
You're saying phones that were used in something like this?
Yes. They contacted the victim that night to arrange a meeting at the murder scene with very specifics about where to meet. And there's just no question in that. And we know he had the phone. There's still other information out there that could be valuable on this.
This is just not that person. This is not that person. I don't believe, like I read.
One of the issues with Kyla's claimed ignorance was that it was contradicted by the assistance she had offered Kevin after the fact, such as lying to police during her first interview. Then later, during a recorded jailhouse visit, Kevin asked her to dispose of some stained clothing he had worn to what he called an electrical job a few months earlier. He was referencing the red hoodie and gray sweatpants that he was known to be wearing on the day of the murder.
But if you're just some dumb person don't know anything, you wouldn't be going to the extent to cover things up like you're doing. I mean,
because people are coming after me who have cases. People are asking questions. People are asking questions about somebody I love.
But the only thing we asked you in the interview was we asked you about 3 phones and if you knew VonTrey Clark, and you lied about all 4 of them. Well, it sounded like when y'all talked from the jail and he talked about this electrician job he did 3 months ago and told you to get rid of that stained hoodie and sweatpants. Mm-hmm. Sound like you knew exactly what he was talking about on that phone call.
You already got rid of it.
Yeah, I said you'd already got rid of it. Don't worry about it.
I did. I got rid of all his shit out of there.
What'd you do with it?
It's gone.
Where?
That's what I'm talking about, Kyla. You're not being completely honest with us.
Kyla Fisk was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence for her disposal of Kevin's stained clothing. After roughly 5 weeks, the FBI secured the return of VonTrey Clark from Bali. He was initially arrested for a visa violation, but would face more serious charges upon his return. He was placed on a plane owned by the Department of Justice, which landed back in Austin, Texas, after midnight on the 2nd of September.
Former Austin police officer VonTrey Clark was taken into custody pursuant to an arrest warrant for the offense of capital murder at 12:03 a.m. on today's date.
Samantha was part of our law enforcement family here in Central Texas. We thought we had to go to great lengths to do what we could do to bring back VonTrey Clark in the interest of justice.
Samantha Dean, wonderful individual. This should not have happened.
Indictments for VonTrey Clark and Kevin Watson were obtained before the case against Freddie Smith was made. It was still unclear what role each of the 3 men had played in the murder. The state's announcement that they intended to seek the death penalty increased the stakes further. Whoever spoke up first and offered a credible and consistent story could make a deal to testify against the other co-conspirators and perhaps save their life. Both the brothers eventually came forward. In lengthy debriefs with state prosecutors, each man offered their version of events, hoping for a deal. To everyone's surprise, VonTrey began by proclaiming his innocence and making unsupported allegations about Sam's actions and how she got pregnant.
Tell us what you want us to know.
I did not kill Samantha Dean, and that's where I'm at right now. That's what I'm charged with. That's what I'm facing. I remember the day. I wake up on a Saturday morning. I guess it was September. To a text from Sam, and it says something like, "I need to talk to you." Okay, tell me, what do you need to talk to me about? I'm afraid to tell you. Just tell me. She tells me she's pregnant.
No, actually, you guessed she was pregnant, right?
Was it me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If you're saying it was.
Yeah, I mean, we have the text.
Okay, well, so I guess she was pregnant. I don't want to have a child with her.
I don't want to have that type of relationship with her. So I told her I'll come talk to her. And at that point, she tells me that how she got pregnant. She took the condom and she turned it inside out, and she used the condom to get pregnant. That's what set this whole thing off. That's when I said, I'm going to hurt this girl. I ended up telling Kevin that I got this girl pregnant and I wasn't going to let her have this baby. And I was going to do something to her. At the time, I didn't know what, but I had planned to kill this girl.
Yeah.
VonTrey described 2 previous incidents in which he had planned to kill Sam, but had been unable to go through with it. This included the incident she later recorded in her journal, in which he tied her up, pretending it was a game. He had handcuffed her in the back of a car and had planned to use a hose to link the exhaust into the vehicle and leave her there, but changed his mind. Eventually, Kevin offered to help, he said. He would recruit Freddie Smith to kill her.
He had talked to Freddie, and that Freddie was willing to do it.
And Freddie is Freddie who?
Smith. He tells me, Kevin told me about the girl, and he says that if you want to get it done, I'll kill the girl for you. And he said, you pay me 15 racks is what he said. And I'll get this to go away for you, or get her to go away for you.
VonTrey denied accepting the arrangement, claiming that he knew he would be guilty of murder if he agreed. But he made it clear nonetheless that he still wanted Sam dead. So on February 3rd, when Kevin was with him in Austin and asked to be dropped off at Sam's house, VonTrey agreed. The former police officer went on to outline a story that placed the blame for the murder on his longest and closest friend, who he said, with the help of Freddie Smith, took care of Sam for him. He watched as Kevin went to Sam's door and convinced her to leave with him in her car. When the Dodge Charger returned sometime later, it did not pull back into her driveway, but rather down the street. Kevin emerged from the back seat of the vehicle. VonTrey said someone other than Sam had been driving. He assumed it was Freddie. Sam must have been dead by that time. VonTrey had not seen what happened, he said. He simply sat in his car near to his house and awaited their return.
I'm not understanding this part at all. About why would she park somewhere other than her house?
It wasn't Sam that parked her car.
He's saying Kevin's in the car. If Kevin and Freddie in the car, that's what you just said earlier, right?
Yeah.
Phone data contradicted VonTrey's story.
On the 3rd, is your personal phone is geolocating in Bastrop the day before. So what were you doing down there then?
That's not possible.
That's what the records show. A couple of days, your phone is showing to be down there, and then that's when the text comes in. I thought you had a place picked out. Is what Kevin's asking you.
And it's your 1168 number phone.
So at some point, you were down there in Bastrop.
When it was Kevin Watson's turn, he told an entirely different version of events. He spoke about VonTrey's slowly escalating obsession over Samantha's pregnancy in the months before her death. He spoke endlessly about the impact it was going to have on his life. Eventually, Kevin said, his friend was incapable of holding a conversation about anything else. And he was repeatedly stating that he needed to get rid of her.
At some point, she posted a sonogram on Facebook. And I think that this was around the time that he goes crazy and, becomes starts really pressing about this issue. You got Freddie's number? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, look, man, I really need to, get rid of this girl. You think Freddie be interested? I was like, I can give you his number. He might be.
Kevin knew Freddie through their various criminal dealings. Kevin dealt drugs. Freddie was a thief who was known to kill people. So Kevin connected his brother with his friend who was a killer, and they began to map out a plan. That plan was to lure Sam to a predetermined location, have Freddie shoot her, and then stage the scene like a drug deal. They purchased a bag full of marijuana because it was cheap, Kevin said, and VonTrey did not want to overspend.
People usually don't get killed over a little amount of weed.
He doesn't know that. He watches TV.
VonTrey had convinced Sam to meet with someone selling a new iPad for $120, texting her from a burner phone and directing her to the parking lot to make the purchase.
How did Trey convince her to leave that house with him, 7 months pregnant, at that time of night, and go out to Bastrop for
To buy a tablet?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. As far as I know, he was meeting us under the guise of buying a tablet. That's what I do know.
VonTrey drove with Sam to the shopping center. Once parked, Kevin dropped off Freddie armed with his .25 caliber pistol. Kevin then drove in circles around the local area until he received a call to return. What transpired next could be considered a comedy of errors if it wasn't so dark and tragic. First, Freddie attempted to fire at Sam's head from behind, but the gun jammed. So he claimed to her that he had forgotten the tablet's charger and would need to leave briefly and return. So he called Kevin to pick him up. They parked at a nearby gas station while Freddie sorted out the gun. Once fixed, he fired a test shot out the window. Then they drove back to Sam waiting in her car, seemingly unaware of what Freddie had attempted moments before. Later, Freddie told Kevin that he got into the back seat and shot Sam twice in the head, then handed the gun to VonTrey, who fired once.
And Freddie's like, this fucking guy. And he, jokes about him, panicking and all that stuff a little bit. And he tells me about how he was in the back seat and he shot her twice. Bam, bam. And then Trey wanted the gun. And then he handed Trey the gun. And Trey he said something crazy and then shot her once. And that's pretty much what happened. And he's like, that's why we couldn't find the third fucking case, because this guy can't even find a case.
When you say said something crazy, any idea what that would be? Do you remember it all?
Something like fuck you bitch or something, some TV shit. Something that people don't really do.
2 casings were collected from the car, but the conspirators could not find the third. They removed the back seat. They shifted Samantha, but they still could not locate it. Their next stop was the side of a rural road where Freddie and VonTrey changed clothes and threw everything into a bag for disposal. Clothing, casings, gloves, and burner phones. From there, they traveled home, VonTrey to Austin, while Kevin made the 2-hour drive back to Houston.
And let's go back to changing clothes.
Right.
At some point we got another case.
Right. This is where we find
Okay. Right. Wait for it. Wait for it. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, the clothes he changed. So when he pops up the thing, he's like, oh fuck. The casing, what the fuck was the casing that was in my pants? In your pants? Fucking moron. Right.
That was not the end of the group's mishaps. When Kevin arrived in Houston, he had a message from Freddie. The gun was missing. They needed to return to Bastrop to look for it. VonTrey was otherwise occupied, having driven straight to the APD station in an attempt to establish an alibi. So Kevin returned to his vehicle to make the drive back to Bastrop when he realized that he had locked his keys in the car. At about 4 a.m., he called Kyla searching for a spare set. She did not have one, so he broke the car's window and drove back to search for the gun. When he arrived in Bastrop, deputies were already at the scene. So Kevin drove back to Houston. That is when he discovered the gun still in the car. He had been driving for hours with the murder weapon wedged between the driver's seat and the front console. It had fallen from VonTrey's waistband when they had driven from the scene. It's unclear when the group realized that a burner phone had actually been left behind.
On the side of the damn, on the driver's side from when Trey was driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
It fell like right here.
Oh, in your car?
Right. So when we hopped out the car at Freddie's house, I looked down, I'm like, fucking gun right here.
And you'd already gone to Bastrop?
I already gone to Bastrop and came back. Freddie's making fun of Trey because he's the worst fucking criminal anybody's ever seen. It's pretty much what it amounts to. He's like, this guy, he's fucking jumpy. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. You know, he's just fucking scary. He's a really bad crook. You know, the reason why you're a cop and not a crook, because you're a really bad crook. You know, one of those things.
Kevin Watson took county investigators through the movements and locations visited on the night of the murder. They drove past the shopping center to the gas station where Freddie unjammed the gun and around the corner where he fired the test shot.
We're sitting right here at this light. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, because it doesn't look like we're going anywhere. We're waiting to see if there's any cars, so we're taking a left. Shoes.
Kevin's story was corroborated by the evidence. VonTrey's version was not. Kevin Watson pleaded guilty to capital murder as part of a plea deal that would make him eligible for parole after 35 years in prison. He agreed to testify against both VonTrey and Freddie. Armed with Kevin's testimony, the state pursued an indictment for capital murder against Freddie Smith. He maintained his innocence.
Have you ever heard there's an old saying that 3 people can keep a secret as long as 2 of them are dead? You ever heard that saying?
I've heard it before.
Okay. So we didn't just by accident show up 4.5 years after a murder and arrest you. We obviously received information from somebody. So you have an opportunity to talk about this today.
And whatever information you receive is not, it can't be, if y'all are charging me for this, it can't be accurate because I had nothing to do with it.
Even though
Freddie Smith went to trial in June 2022 after years of delay due to the COVID pandemic. A search of Freddie's phone had resulted in the discovery of a 2013 photo of 2 .25 caliber pistols. A firearms forensic expert testified that the bullets recovered from Sam's body were all fired from the same weapon, and that one of the guns in the photo was the type of pistol that would have produced the rifling pattern found on the recovered bullets. Both Kevin Watson and his wife Kyla Fisk also testified. The charges against Kyla had been dismissed years earlier. Investigators believed she may have been exposed to more information than she had admitted, but that what she knew had been learned after the fact. She was not a co-conspirator in the murder. Freddie Smith was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. VonTrey Clark eventually pleaded guilty. His legal team had been granted multiple extensions to prepare for a death penalty case and spent years exhausting all of his pretrial options. His publicly funded defense had cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. Ultimately, with his plea, Samantha Dean's family was spared another trial, and VonTrey was spared the death penalty. He received a sentence of life without the possibility of parole.
I really don't like the word closure, because closure to me means that everything has been taken care of and we would go back home and Sammy would be there and Maddie would be riding around on her bike, but that's not the case. What this is a resolution. We have resolved from what we started with 7.5 years ago.
And that was the tragic case of Samantha Dean and her unborn daughter, Madeline. Thank you for joining me, and a special thanks this week to Bernice Zanette and Dante V for joining our Members Lounge. Your extra support for the work that we do here at JTL is really appreciated. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
Keeping it objective, always been effective. Can say he got a knack. Pick of the litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you need, this could be a new sign. We talk in the comments, they jot in a few lines. Tune in and hit like, love that, it's too kind. Feels like the whole world